Welcome to Lead Pods, the official leadership podcast from USMB for pastors and church leaders, where our goal is to increase our impact together.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of the USMB Lead Pods. My name is Matt Ayersman. I'll be your host today as we tackle another topic I'm really excited to dive into. And hey, happy summer! I know it's not technically summer yet, but at least here in Kansas, schools are wrapping up for the year, the weather's getting nicer, and so, hey, for all intents and purposes, happy summer to you. So today we're tackling a topic we haven't got a chance to talk about yet. We're talking about kids ministry, which is a very important part of, if not all, at least most churches, and it's a very important thing we should all be thinking about, so I'm glad that we're talking about it today. Today I'm talking to Brittney Howard. Brittney is the children's pastor at Prodigal Church in Fresno, and we talk about COVID a little bit, what their church did before COVID, how they adjusted during the pandemic, and now how they're shifting things after. Are we after COVID? I don't really know, but today, wherever we're at today, how they're kind of rethinking some things and how they're going to make some adjustments to hopefully better reach the families in their community. So I think she had a lot of interesting ideas to share about what their church did during the pandemic. And as they're kind of rethinking, reprioritizing some things, I think she has some great things that we could all think about, whatever your church looks like today, how we can maybe make some adjustments specifically for our kids' ministry. So we'll take a quick break for a word from our sponsor and get right to a great conversation about kids' ministry from Brittney Howard from Prodigal Church.
Deciding on the right college is a big deal. At Fresno Pacific University, they get it. They are a private, nonprofit Christian university where your academic success is their priority. The Mennonite Brethren roots run deep from the classroom to the field. Professors connect you to research and internships. Financial aid makes your education affordable. And with our 4-year guarantee, you'll graduate on time to launch your career. Visit fpu.edu for more information about their undergrad, graduate, and degree completion programs. Fresno Pacific University. Possible happens here.
All right, my friends, welcome to a new episode. Today, I'm excited to be talking to Brittney Howard, who is the children's pastor at Prodigal Church in Fresno. And as we were planning this episode, I realized we've covered a lot of ground on the podcast, but we haven't talked about kids or kids ministry yet. And that's a really important part of most, if not all, churches. And so I think that's an important topic for us to dive into today. So, hey, Brittney, thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about Prodigal and your role there, and just how Prodigal got started, what you do there as a children's pastor. Give us a brief intro.
Yeah, absolutely. We, as a church, were launched in September of 2017, and we have been working out of Fresno. Our lead pastor really felt called to lead and start a church that was just focused on loving God and loving others. And that has just been, from the ground up, just where we started as a church. And my role from the beginning has been children's ministry, but when you church plant, you do everything. So I do everything but teach from the main stage, and I'm glad about that. But I help with children's ministry as well as women's and every type of event, the whole gamut of things. But our kids ministry, I love it. I love these little kids. They have such fresh minds that are ready to learn. And right now, everything's a little different. We were at Bullard High School, but everything with COVID. And so we are, working our way back to what our normal is. And we are, there's the challenges to that, but we're enjoying that too. So.
Cool. So we'll dive into the COVID stuff in here in just a minute, but why don't you give us a peek pre-COVID? What did children's ministry at Prodigal look like? Did you have Sunday and Wednesdays, or what was your kind of normal before COVID hit?
Yeah, normal before COVID, we had between 70 and 100 kids on a Sunday morning. We only met on Sunday mornings as we rent a facility. So, we're a mobile church, as some know it. We set up on Sunday mornings, we tear down on Sunday mornings, and everything else in the week is social media, online, those types of things.
Real quick, why don't you explain what kinds of things do you do with social media online? What kinds of things do you offer?
Yeah, pre-COVID, we did not have much of a presence as children's ministry online, but that was our push to move towards having, social media. We as a church have a lot of presence on social media. We, post all of our sermons. We promote all of our information through, it's a main form of communication with most of our church. But now we are, posting every Sunday, our lessons, everything is on our website. We have an app where they can access the information, what's going on, where we're meeting, because it's always changing right now. And just so if they want to access everything, it is online. Before COVID, 2 services, that was about it. We did have a monthly thing on the first Sunday of every month. We called Sunday Funday, where it was an outreach-oriented children's ministry. I don't want to say event, but it had more energy put into it so that it was more exciting, fun, engaging, inviter-friendly, visitor-friendly, and other things throughout the year. But that was kind of our rhythm. 2 services on Sunday, and once a month we had a higher focus towards children's ministry.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to spend some time today talking about COVID, and I know, you're currently still doing kind of a hybrid of church online and in person. Is that true at Prodigal?
Yes, we are. We're slowly moving as things start to get back to normal. We still meet. We are still providing an online service for both our main church and our kids' church. But we just this last Sunday opened up our preschool age classrooms, and for about a month and a half, we've been doing our older kids, which is K through 5th. We've been doing that, and so we're moving back into it. We're getting the volunteers back in the rhythm of, serving, and we're at 1 service right now. We still have not been able to move back to our location at the high school we were serving at. So we're at other facilities and just waiting approval for that. And once we do, I think we'll get back into more of a rhythm, but it's changing weekly. So, and we're rolling with it.
Well, and I think COVID's obviously been hard for every church, every business, every family, but I imagine being a church plant that meets at other locations, that's an extra challenge that a lot of people didn't have to worry about, having to find new locations, and I'm sure getting the tech gear set up and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that was a challenge for you guys. Yeah,
absolutely. For kids specifically, these kids don't, kindergartners don't have phones that they follow, and apps. How do you reach the kindergartner? How do you reach the 3rd grader who isn't on social media, hopefully? And so you're basically now the parent is your connector. And so you're dealing with parents trying to bring them into the process of teaching these kids and being involved. And so this past year, just looking at parents' capacity, what can they handle? We were all in over our heads at one point or another. And so we knew that in order to reach these kids, we had to make it accessible. We had to make it easy. And we didn't want to give the parents homework because it wouldn't happen. And so we asked ourselves, what could we do that was easy for the parents to just say, hey, here's your lesson. And they could be as involved or as little involved or less involved as they can. And if we reach a few families, we had to call that a win because, let's be honest, I'm a children's pastor and my kids didn't do church every Sunday. So
we were all just in survival mode for a long time. So
absolutely.
You had a separate service specifically for kids?
So so we have our main one. Our main service that is on our app, and then under our children's tab we had another section where there were 3 videos posted, one for older kids, one for 2 videos, one for the older kids and one for the younger kids, so that they could go in, they would click on it, and it would have a welcome, a worship time where they could dance and do whatever was on the docket for that Sunday. Yeah, sure. And then they would learn their lesson, and from there they could be done. They could have learned their life application. How do they apply this to their life? They got to worship, they got to learn, and it was generally like 10-15 minutes. And then we did something called curriculum packets, and that was something that we felt we needed to give these kids something to do hands-on. They usually in general Sunday school, they come home with this slew of stuff that just has Jesus written all over it. And most of it goes in the trash. We know that, but it's a reminder. It's a conversation piece. It's something that it can help the parents say, what did you learn today? And they look at it and they're like, oh, Jesus, walked on water. And so they can explain using that piece. So what we did was we took the curriculum that we use, pulled as much of it out as we could. And from its theme and the curriculum, we put together in a like plastic tote bag thing. And it had one piece of paper for every Sunday. And it was just the most simplest, didn't need explanation, color it, fill in the blank, whatever it was, so that they could pull it out. That was week 1. If they were filling up to it, they did it. Some people didn't. Some people did it all in the first week they got it. And they're like, yay, did it all and then wait for the next month. And we also threw in some type of like creative, if it was like a beach themed, we threw in a beach pail with like sand buckets or something.
Oh, nice. Cool.
So that the kids were excited to get it. And it wasn't just like
just a piece of paper.
Yeah, we wanted it to be fun. So
did you deliver those? Were they available for pickup or how'd you do that?
That was complicated. I would say it was an ever-changing decision on how we were going to get them out. We started with delivering them. And I mean, we had probably 75 families that we would deliver to every month. And it was a blessing I don't want to say a curse, but it was a blessing and it wasn't. It was, we get to go to these kids' houses. We get to see them from the curb, right in like April or March, when everything shut down in 2020. So it gave us a reason to go to their house. It gave my volunteers something to actually do, because before COVID, I had 120 volunteers. Like, what do you do with volunteers when they're not needed anymore?
Right.
And some of these people do want to, some people you have to pull teeth, but some people are just, they miss these kids. And so those are the people that we reached out and said, could you deliver 10 packets? We create a Google map and it has all the dots on it. And these are the green ones and you deliver those ones. So that's what we did for most of it. Cool. Once we started meeting at drive-in services or outdoor services, we were there on the first Sunday of the month. They came and picked them up. They could drive through and just pick them up. They could come pick them up at my house. They could come to service and take them home. So that's how we got them out there. It was a lot of work.
That's awesome. I love it. So I want to go back real quick. You talked with those kids' videos. I'm just curious. Was that something that your curriculum provided, or were you making original videos, or how did the actual video stuff that went out to the kids, what was that like? So
the curriculum we use is Orange, and it's very extensive, very full of options. So that's a blessing. And inside of that, we pulled from that. Occasionally we would record maybe me saying, good morning, PC kids. I miss you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying learning from home with mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. Something like that. But most of the stuff that we recorded of me or our staff talking directly to the kids was posted on social media.
Okay. Very cool.
So, we just used what they gave us in the curriculum, and then we edited it down. We put our logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and we put transitions in there to make it smooth, and we had to let that be good enough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a great solution. So
we wrestled with, should I record a tie-in at the end, where I bring it home and they get to still see me? But I mean, we were still staying afloat as a staff, we're all trying to swim. So none of us were walking on water. That was a decision we made, knowing that most of these kids weren't watching it, but we had to funnel our energy. And I will be honest, most of my energy was redirected from the kids to the parents, and pastoral ministry and just care ministry. I mean, people were so in deep and they just needed someone to take the prayer request and pass it on to the prayer team. They needed somebody to deliver dinner or just call and say hi. And so my role shifted a lot during this season, and it's shifting back. To get to the kids, I had to talk to the parents, and to talk to the parents meant being a listening ear and caring. So
I'm glad you brought that up. That's my next question. So I think, parents were just throwing all kinds of wrenches, right? I mean, you and I we both have young kids at home, and
yeah.
some people whose kids are a little bit older. I mean, parents just had it rough. I mean, everyone had it rough, but a lot of parents were having to teach their kids online. They're having to do their own jobs online.
Mm-hmm.
They were, trying to figure out DoorDash or whatever for dinner. Like, it was just such a chaotic season. And so I know that a lot of parents struggle with just this guilt, right? Like, we have to be these great parents to do everything right. And so, of course, as Christians, you want our kids to be actively involved in church, but especially during that year or whatever, life was just so chaotic. And so I'm glad to hear you kind of shifted to care for the parents a little bit. Can you just talk more about that? Like, what did that look like in your church, and how did you talk to me more about the shift from you're the kids ministry, but now you're actually ministering to the parents in a lot of ways?
Yeah, thankfully, it's one of my favorite part of my jobs as well. Like, just, when you take a little kid from a parent on a Sunday morning, I mean, you're just as much convincing the parent that it's going to be okay to leave their kid, that it is to convince the baby that they can trust us. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that part naturally of my job prior to COVID. And so having to shift to that, I don't want to say it was a challenge. I did miss the kids though, like there wasn't much outside of visiting those kids to drop off those packets. And half the time they're not home. But our team shifted in whole. It wasn't just me. And we did this thing in the fall or in the summertime actually, where we went around to our whole staff would get in their car with their families. And once a week for about 2 months, we would go and just map out people that lived in the same area, knock on the door or text them and let them know we were there. And the church staff stood on the curb and we just visited. We just checked in, said hi, said, we're still here. We love you guys. And just asked, how are you? And that's just what they needed. I mean, we all needed someone to check in on us during that season. And as a church that doesn't have a site, as a church that doesn't have a home, like we literally everything's packed in a trailer, everything's put in our storage unit and in our garages, so it's weird when you don't have your church home and you don't have a place where you can do drive-throughs and you don't have a place where you can just say, come pick this up and they can't come knock on the door. So, because we don't have one. So yeah, we went around and did that. I mean, that was our focus. And in order to, that's what we needed as a staff. And so that we figured that was something that we needed to do. And that's how we also knew how the kids were doing, and even with that coming after COVID, I wouldn't say we're after COVID, but coming out of it, we hear about teenagers who were, having mental issues, they were having so many issues that we didn't know about. Yeah. And you can't just say on a curb, can't shout out my teenager's in her room and she won't come out and she's depressed and I'm struggling to know what's best for her. So as many touches as we could have with parents, the more opportunities they had to know that there was somebody who cared, somebody that loved them and was still a part of their community, even though they couldn't see them very often. And that was important to us to make sure that they knew that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we could have done better. Like there's people, like we're a church of just under 400 and you don't know the name of everybody in your church.
Sure.
And you, even as much as you do your best, you don't know the person who came the Sunday before things shut down because they never filled out an info card and they didn't send their kids to kid church. So you don't know. Yeah. So they've been attending for a year. And I'm saying, welcome to Prodigal. Is this your first Sunday? You learn not to say that anymore after COVID because they've been attending online.
So I don't know if you have anything to say here or not. I'm just curious. So we talked about parents a little bit, and I've thought a lot about kids. Like, is your kids ministry kind of pre-K through fifth grade? Is that kind of your?
Mine is babies to fifth grade.
Okay, cool. So I've just thought, I think you have a pre-K kid and a kindergarten kid, right? And I've got a 3-year-old. So like, it's just weird to me that our kids and kids in general like they're just going to remember this time. That was just crazy. And
Yeah.
for some of them, I think it was just normal. Like masks are just normal for them. Like
Hmm.
they can't remember a time before they had to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And some of them, it was just normal and everything was fine. Some of them may have been kind of scared and worried, and they kind of picked up. Mom and dad were a little worried, and they weren't sure. They all of a sudden they couldn't go to school.
Hmm.
So did you have any conversations in kid language? Like what were your kids at your church going through? Was it just normal for them, or were some of them kind of struggling? What was that like?
I think the older they were, the more aware they were.
Mhm.
So some of these babies, they don't know what kids' church is. When
Mhm.
they come back and we have a babies, they're going to be like, "Why are you dropping me off? Like it's not a
Right.
normal thing."
Yeah.
Uh, and they didn't know. They're not scared of masks because that's been life. My 8-month-old,
That's all they know. Yeah.
he saw when the first day he was born. So it's
Yeah.
just they those little ones I think are less aware of it. I'm sure they picked up on the stresses at home as these parents are, staying afloat.
Yeah.
But they don't know any different. But as they get older, I have a 6-year-old, they pick up on your anxiety, they pick up on your anxiousness. And so as parents, we're all doing our best to shield them from that and to guard them, but we can't pretend that this year wasn't hard and mom and dad had to say sorry for not being so patient. But that's okay. These kids are going to be okay, and we're here as a church and as parents to love them through this season and out of it. And that's what we're doing. Like as these kids start coming back to church, I mean, you see these kids walk in and they're looking around, like they're curious, like what is this now, what does it look like now, just like when they go back to school. It's different.
Yeah.
And, we're on school campuses and we're following the mandates that the schools have because we're renting their facilities.
Sure.
And because, we're working with kids. And so we're teetering all of these situations, and we are, working hard to make sure that first and foremost, when these kids come in, they need to feel loved.
Mhm.
And when they leave, they need to know that Jesus loves them too. Beyond that, it's changing. It's crazy. There's COVID. Mom and dad are still trying to do their best, or whoever's guardian is trying to do best. Yeah, we're just trying to love them through that. And so that's all we got right now.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so your church is starting to kind of get back to normal a little bit, and we were chatting just a little bit beforehand that COVID is just a time to kind of reevaluate everything, right? Like
Hmm.
what were we doing before that doesn't make sense anymore? What were we holding on to that we were just holding on to? And I think again, you might have kind of a unique perspective as a newer church plant. You don't have, 20 years of we've always done it this way, like a lot of churches do. So what as you're kind of getting back to normal, what are you thinking about some of those shifts? Like how might things look differently now for you?
Yeah. So as a church plant, we are 3.5 years old. You have this idea of you want to launch this ministry, you're dreaming, you're trying. Well, we launched quickly, and there wasn't like years of dreaming for this, of what a children's ministry could look like. I didn't anticipate being in charge of designing a ministry from the ground up. I never thought that was going to be me. So having done it for 3 years and then taking a very unique shift, and now basically feeling like we're relaunching a church, we have the opportunity to look and say, what can we do better? What was hard to change, but we couldn't stop the ship and say, let's turn it this way. Something that I want to change going back to church is I want to help the kids to have a better sense of community. Like I said before, I had about 120 volunteers, but kids don't need 120 volunteers. They need a leader, and they need somebody that they know is there, accessible, and just kind of on their team with life in general, and somebody they can trust. So going back, I would like to have, for my kindergartners and first graders, I want them to have their leader, somebody that they're like, Susie is my leader. And if she's not my teacher every Sunday, but when I run into her when she's not serving, she's somebody I can go, hey, at school this week, I got an A, or last week you taught me to walk away from conflict and be a bridge of peace. I did that, like I want them to be able to follow with these kids. And I think had we done this prior to COVID, which the curriculum is actually designed for, but I didn't know how to pull it off. I didn't know how to switch to that.
Yeah.
They would have had their leader. There would have been a leader that had 6 kids that she could follow up with them. She would have that connection, but I didn't have that. So it was me, for the most part, trying to keep in touch with all these kids and families, but it's too much for one person to do. And it shouldn't be just me.
Mhm.
I believe that a lot of these volunteers actually desire that connection as well with these kids. And I think they would feel more like they're making a difference and an impact and using the gifts that they've been given if I helped facilitate and organize that. So going back, I want small group leaders, people that these kids can identify with as their leader. So that's our main shift, change, and just that I think will have a trickle down effect of being more efficient and effective as a ministry. And the second thing that I don't have a plan for, if I'm being honest, but I know it's something I want to do. The curriculum is designed this way, but I believe it's the right way. We only have these kids for an hour a week.
Right.
These parents have them the rest of the time, and we can only do so much as a church. So the rest of it is the parents
Mhm.
or their teachers or whoever's with them. So if we can help to empower these parents to partner with us and not just drop them off to learn 1 hour a week, I think we would be more successful. So how do we get these parents to see that they have a huge role here? Not one that I think if we explained it or we were able to deliver it to them, they would understand it and they desire the best for their kids, more so than we do. So how can we help come alongside them and give them better tools, better conversation pieces so that when they're putting them to bed or sitting at the dinner table, they know what their kids learned about on Sunday
Yep.
and they can have conversation with them. They can follow up and they might learn from their kids too. There's a reason why having a childlike faith is something that the Bible talks about. And I think that we as parents often can learn from them. So I need to do a better job at that. I don't want it to just be the piece of paper that goes home on Sunday that gets tossed in the back seat, that gets vacuumed out of the car when you go to surf and turf. Like, I don't want, I do it in my own car. So how do I empower these parents to know that they have a role to play that will make a difference? And so that's the second piece, but still working through what that looks like.
No, that's awesome. I love that. I love that you're thinking through that too. That's great. So as things are opening back up, every community is probably slightly different. Every family is different, but I know like at my church, I'm in Kansas and Kansas is pretty much back to normal. We've opened up pretty much back to normal, but we still have a ton of families who are still staying at home, even though they can come back and they are back to normal in a lot of places of their world. They've chosen to continue to watch online.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what you're thinking about that for kids ministry. Again, that's a challenge. Are
Yeah.
you plan to continue to do kind of a hybrid model for kids too? And is that really sustainable long-term? Can you still do some kind of hybrid of the both? How do you think that'll work moving forward?
It's a moving target of knowing how to handle it. We are shifting though. I would say we're shifting. So before we delivered packets, once we started meeting in person, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Also now that schools are back open,
Mhm.
and we can meet in person, and here in California, I know not everywhere it's the case, but vaccines are available to everyone. And because of that, we are open every week, as a church. And so when we only opened, because when we first opened children's ministry, we opened K through fifth. That was all that I could handle. I didn't have enough volunteers. Like,
Yeah.
I'm being honest, I didn't have enough volunteers to support all the ministries to open all back up.
Sure.
You ask yourself, like, you don't want to we can't assume that all of our volunteers that served before are going to serve when they come back.
Yep.
Life has changed, their world has changed. Some people have change of jobs and they now work on Sundays. Some
Yeah.
people don't go to your church anymore and you don't even know it. And you don't want to call them and be like, hey, we have children, want to serve this Sunday? And they put them on the spot to say, we don't go to your church anymore.
Right.
And that's okay. I mean, and there's people who have joined our church that aren't quite ready to serve yet. They're still seeing if you're the church that they want to go to because they haven't even seen a normal Sunday. Like, so to commit to children's ministry when they don't even know if they go there long term. I mean, so we are working with the pieces that we've got. We're stepping out in faith as we launch each ministry that God will provide those volunteers. But that comes with so much like unsurety and just, I mean, I want to say I have faith that God's going to give me all these volunteers, but like there are times when I don't have enough and I have to be honest and transparent with that. So we launched our K through 5th. And when we did that, we stopped providing those kids the in-home packets, but we still have the online videos going. So we can't drive to all these kids' homes anymore and do that. It has to stop at some point because I need to focus that energy towards, I still want to serve both populations, but I have to be able to do it well. So online, we're doing that still. But the bags and the paper and the curriculum were not. Then, so we continued to do our preschoolers until we opened it. Now we stopped those packets, but we're continuing the online. Cool. Something we are doing though, some parents don't want their kids to go to children's ministry. Almost every kid who goes to school now, who has gone back to school, is now coming to kids ministry. But some of these parents have kept with the hybrid model. And so to lessen their feelings of anxiety or just not knowing what it looks like, they're keeping their kids with them in service. So some families come to service. So we provide something called an in-service bag, which they can get when they, get greeted on their way in. They pick it up and it has some type of activity, whether it's Play-Doh or sticker book packet, or on Easter, we had like an Easter craft that was like foam type sticker stuff. And it had a coloring sheet and it had something in there and it had like goldfish and maybe a dum-dum pop. So basically it was a keep quiet, mom and dad are sitting in service, but be entertained for 45 minutes. So we still provide those for all the age groups that we can't provide a children's ministry for, because my husband had to sit there with my 4-year-old and 8-month-old for 2 months as we didn't have something for the 4-year-old. So we want to make it as user-friendly for these people to come to church and still get fed. So that is a transition that we're making. And once we have all of our ministries opened back up, I believe we'll probably stop doing those in-service bags, and we will continue doing online videos through the summer. And when fall opens back up and stuff is back online, we're going to reevaluate and see if we can sustain editing those videos, reposting them on our website every week. But it's something useful. It's something that if you're out of town, and even if COVID wasn't a thing, you could still set your kids down and they could do their service while we watch ours on a podcast or on YouTube. So if it's sustainable, I would like to.
I'd be tempted to grab some of those goldfish and stickers on my way in too. So I don't know, you might grab some extra for some parents out there. I don't know.
Done that. Done that while packing them up.
Okay, well, let's shift a little bit towards kind of post-COVID life or whatever we're in right now. I know I think you have some kind of outreach event coming up in May, and I know that outreach and community involvement is something that your church is really passionate about. So can you tell us about that from kind of a kid's perspective? Tell us about that event coming up and anything else about community involvement you want to share with us today.
We have a theme with our curriculum that goes every month. Our theme for our kids this month is 5K, and they're talking about practicing and committing to something. And so they're committing to not only faith practices of prayer and talking about God and living it and learning more, but they're also our core value for children's ministry is to help these kids to learn to live and love like Jesus. And so how do we bring together this commitment piece and loving others, learning to live and love like Jesus? And so we presented this last Sunday for the kids that we're going to do a fun run. And this is a way for these kids to commit to raising money for sponsors to give money towards a nonprofit in our city that has to do with helping kids. So these kids are raising money for other kids to be a practical application for what they're learning all month.
Cool.
And so they are going to ask for $2 sponsors. Nothing crazy. It doesn't have to be. It can be simple.
Yeah.
Wanted to make it small enough for the little 5-year-old to say, I could do this and commit to it, and then to do it. So we're going to do that all month. And at the end of the month, our whole church is going to have a picnic, and we are going to do a color fun run, that spray color stuff. So we are going to cheer these kids on as they run a few laps to celebrate that they committed to something and that they got to raise that money and they get to give it. And then the head of that organization is going to come on out and thank these kids. So
cool.
Just teaching them that they can make a difference, that they can commit to something, and making a difference in loving other people in our community, specifically kids, because it's more relatable. Yeah. So we're doing that as a church, and these the youth that's going to join in and donate, raise money with snow cone machines, and these parents can donate as well. So we're excited for it. It's an outreach. We haven't been able to do that kind of a thing for a year, so this feels like it's refreshing to be able to be there and actually do a run and actually do a picnic.
Yeah.
And this past year, you ask yourself, I'm sure other children's pastors have too, like, am I even doing anything? Am I even making a difference? Is what I'm putting my effort towards even landing with somebody? And so when you do something like this, it refuels you to know that what you're doing makes a difference, that these kids, when you see them, I think it's going to be amazing to see these kids get out there and to do this. And then it's refueling for me as a children's pastor to see what I'm doing actually go beyond Sunday.
Sure. Oh, that's great. That's a great idea. We're starting to run out of time here, but one thing I did want to ask you about too, I think you mentioned earlier that I think you have certain Sundays are kind of more guest or invite friendly. So I don't know if you're currently doing those, but can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, we did something called Sunday Fun Day. This was a monthly thing. We would go outside if we, weather permitting. We would, instead of in a classroom, we would be in the gym if it was raining, and we would deck the gym out. We would have a stage. We would have music. We would have confetti bombs. We would have some type of a theme. So if it was July, it was 4th of July. If it was Christmas, there were presents everywhere, and candy canes and, all the things. If it was in the New Year's, we always did a glow into the dark, like a glow in the dark Sunday Fun Day. And these kids would all come wearing white. We'd have black lights, and we would just welcome them with tons of energy. We would throw t-shirts out to those kids who brought guests, or if this was your first time here. So we would, they would throw out those t-shirts, and it was just like this big fun, like bring a friend, because it's hard to invite. Like, I know we always say it, but it's hard for these kids to invite their friend to church. It's hard for them to talk about Jesus. Sometimes the older they get, the less cool it is, So if their kid's going to get a full-size candy bar and a t-shirt for coming, I mean, hey, come on down. So
and some goldfish and stickers.
And goldfish and stickers. Absolutely. So we would do that. There would be giant games. So like, that Hungry Hippo game, where they so we would give these kids skateboards, and they would just go and get the giant ball pit balls and all the things. And so we would do crazy big games like that, or massive Pac-Man, glow in the dark tape on the ground with everybody wearing white t-shirts and a Pac-Man. And we've got the monsters or the ghosts, and we've got the Pac-Man. And so we just did that kind of stuff. And it was at the very end, there was always an invite back to next week. Next Sunday, we have some great fun things planned. We can't wait to share with you guys. And don't forget, and we even did t-shirts, like band t-shirts. So it had the dates of all the months for the year. So these kids, we'd be throwing them out all year, and it would say the theme, the name. So it would have the date that it was, and then it had the theme name. And they were always creative. And so that's what we did before. We haven't gotten back to that. We're trying to learn how to walk before we can run again. Sure. And if I'm being honest, it was a lot of work. And I don't know if doing it every week is sustainable, but I think moving to 4 times a year would be a good balance for us in this season.
Very cool. I love that. That's a great idea. All right, Brittney, you've been really generous with your time, and it sounds like your church is doing a lot of really great things. And again, before started recording, we were just chatting a little bit. And if I was kind of hearing you correctly, I think you were a little hesitant to talk about like you and your church, that you did everything so great over COVID, because you kind of said, oh, we could have done more. Other churches did other things that we didn't do. And I just want to say, I think you did a great job. And I think we were all in that same boat, right? We were all doing the best we could to keep our ministries afloat. And again, with our jobs and families and everything. And
Yeah.
it's easy to look at the other churches and see all the great things they're doing and wish we could have done more, but we were all just doing our best to get by. And it sounds like you and your church did a really great job. So
Well, thanks.
kudos to you for all that you did. And thanks for sharing your ideas with us today. As we wrap up, is there anything else you want to leave us with, or any other stories or things you want to share with us?
I do think that if there's any children pastors out there or children's ministry leaders out there who would question whether or not what they're doing makes a difference, whether or not it was worth it this past year to keep your job and work at a church in such an adjusted role. These kids, they're so resilient. They will continue to learn to live and love like Jesus, and your work does matter, and your presence in their life matters. So what you did this past year was enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Definitely. Because so often we hear stories of a kid started coming to church and then their parents came. Like, the kids ministry is such an important part of church ministry. So, yep, well said. Brittney, thank you for all that you do for your church. Thank you for sharing your ideas with us today. It's been great getting to know you a little bit. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have you visited the USMB website lately? At www.usmb.org, you'll find information about upcoming events, a complete list of MB churches across the U.S., information about lead coaching, lead one, lead cohorts, and lead pods, Mennonite Brethren history, and a resource library with recommended books, articles, and videos, including recordings of all USMB-sponsored webinars. Visit www.usmb.org for your connection to everything MB.
All right. Well, thanks again, Brittney, for sharing with us today. And I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. And as we are in these summer months, we're actually going to continue this topic somewhat. So today we talked kids ministry, obviously. And the next few episodes that we have planned, we are tackling a couple different variations on parenting. So if you are at home this summer with littler kiddos, or maybe you are wrapping up the graduation season, or maybe you are an older parent, or maybe you're not a parent yet, but I think we've got some interesting conversations coming up about parenting that I'm looking forward to, and I hope you look forward to as well. So please join us for those conversations in the coming weeks. And I again want to thank you so much for spending time with us today. Go outside and enjoy some nice weather, and we will look forward to seeing you next time right here on the Lead Pods.
Thanks for listening to Lead Pods. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to our show wherever you're listening today. Learn more by visiting usmb.org. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time as we learn more practical tools to increase our impact together.